Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of Smith Falls for All Committee for April 10th, 2025. I'll open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On April 10th, 2025, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all the relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength for a mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and be mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order at 9:03 a.m. I'll look for a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Diana, seconded by Katie. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Hope everyone had a chance to review the minutes. I have a motion that the March 13th to the 45 Smith Falls for All Committee meeting minutes be approved as circulated. Moved by Joanne, seconded by Katie, or doesn't matter, yes. Mitra, sorry. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Ask for disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. We have a number of priority issues today. A lot of items on our agenda. We'll try to get through it in an hour and a half. We'll see how things go. First is food insecurity draft resolution, and we've had a presentation meetings regarding food insecurity as a state of emergency. And Costello has drafted the final resolution, and everyone had a chance to review it. I'm opening the floor for comments, suggestions.
I do have to update the down below. I think I still have, the mayor pointed out last night, some of the to be shared with. I still have Justin Trudeau, and so that will be updated.
Yes. We're not going to wait, I think, until I would just simply say Prime Minister rather than wait until the election's over.
Okay.
So thoughts? Yes, Joanne?
It looks really great. I just have one little correction, Carrie. The third statement down, where it says whereas LGL Public Health, if that could read whereas Public Health Ontario, because they're the ones that actually did it. And then I've reached out to find out if we should be saying Southeast Health Unit in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the ninth one down, or if we should be saying Leeds Grenville Lanark District Health Unit, because technically we did it, but now
I know, and I struggled with that too, because the website still indicates that LGL, and it was their data.
Exactly.
So I struggled with that as well.
Yeah, I think I'll let you know.
Okay.
I've reached out to find out what we're supposed to say. So.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Carrie.
And I heard yesterday on the radio this discussion, Ottawa, they haven't declared a state of emergency, but there was a report on food insecurity in Ottawa, and it suggested it's 1 in 4 people in Ottawa who is food insecure.
Wow.
So the only thing here, I guess, it's hard for us to have data which truly reflects our community, so I think 1 in 7 households, as has been suggested, is probably light. But again, how do you get down and drill down to the most relevant data for here? But even if it was 1 in 7, it's still obviously a significant portion of our population. Other comments or considerations? Yes.
So I think Mayor Panko, with the consensus of this group, we do have a meeting Monday. That might be, since the agenda is going out today, that might be a bit soon. But I think the hope would be maybe to get this on the April 28th Committee of the Whole in front of council, if you concur, since I'll put you as speaking to it.
Okay. Thoughts? Is the agenda heavy for Monday?
It's relatively heavy. I'd have to go back and look to see how many items will take long. The Lower Reach redesign is on there, and I anticipate that might take some time. There is quite a few items already on it. If I can squeeze it on, I certainly will.
Yeah, I guess we'll live to your judgment.
Okay.
So we'll look for a motion to approve the draft food insecurity resolution as discussed and amended, and that this be forwarded to council through committee of the whole for consideration. Moved by Mitra, seconded by Janet. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, Allyship Pamphlet. Who's leading that? Nicole?
Yes. So the allyship pamphlet is underway. Mitra, Chris, and I had time to chat after our last meeting, and we talked about a timeline and what our goals were for the pamphlet and what pamphlet even meant. So we went through everyone's responses, saw some similarities, and chose to have 3 separate ideas brought forward. So a poster, a trifold, and then a living document in a like PDF version, so that it's kind of accessible throughout. We have 2 posters in draft as well as the trifold, and Mitra, Chris, and I are meeting following this meeting, so we're hopefully going to have things ironed out and sent off in the coming weeks so that we can get your feedback by next meeting or at next meeting and hopefully get the seal of approval.
Super. Any further comments or questions?
Just a question around the 2 poster drafts. Are you making them, like, I guess is the intent to have 2 posters, i.e. for different populations? You know, maybe one for youth orientated and one adult orientated, or is it just one for everybody and we get to pick which one?
It's more for layout. So one is rectangle and one is circle. Just kind of playing around with what different ideas are eye-catching, but we'll also get our point across. Yeah.
Any further questions?
But that's a
Mitra?
good,
Yeah.
that's a good point too. We didn't discuss this, but maybe we could like do 2 different versions because especially because you're also working with youth. That would be good if we could have something that we could provide for them as well.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I added more work.
No,
Okay. More work. That's good.
it's not that much work. It's okay.
So I guess I ask the working group, ideally, if you get a draft done in the next couple of weeks, circulate it to the committee. We want to have a chance to look at it before our next meeting, and a better chance of us having it maybe approved
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
We will do that.
That seems like a very fair timeline.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, well, thanks for the 3 of you who are working diligently at this. We look forward
Maybe
to it.
Nicole is doing the work.
Okay.
Their feedback is awesome. I'm just putting it in a like digitalized, but I could not do it without Chris and Mitra.
Awesome. Well done. We're looking forward to it coming back. Okay, moving on. You may all be aware, many of you may be aware, we were approached a month ago, I guess, Carrie, somewhere around there. And a delegation came to Committee of the Whole for the town to consider twinning with a Ukrainian city. And so we've been working with the delegates to try to determine an appropriate city. What would be a good match? Some cities and towns and cities in Ukraine have numerous twinning relationships, and we wanted to find one that probably doesn't. We also wanted to find one that we could form an active relationship and one that would probably be somewhat similar in size, maybe some similar demographics. So we've narrowed it down to, I think, 3 right now, and that will be probably by the next couple of days. We'll probably have a recommendation for Committee of the Whole next week as to which one we believe is the most appropriate, and have a discussion. So we'll be coming forward then for consideration, Committee of the Whole, and then assuming we have support, it will come to council and be supported. And I guess the thought for bringing it here is just to bring an update. But secondly, there may be more of a role for this committee to play with that relationship. Just recognizing we've got a lot of passion, a lot of intelligence here, a lot of community orientation, and maybe we can bring it back here if once it's supported, so we can have an idea, start to build the ideas on how we can help build this relationship, how we can provide value to this community in Ukraine, and try to help build a good, sustainable, long-term relationship. It means a lot to both communities. Any questions or thoughts?
Can be
Mitra?
at some point can we invite people from the Ukrainian community here to come talk about the challenges that their people are facing, how we can support them maybe, so that they give us an idea, a more palpable idea of how we can be of an assistance on distance.
Okay, yeah, and they would also have great insight into how we could probably help the most in
Correct.
Ukraine as well.
Yes,
Okay, so we know some we can reach out to and
that would be great.
make a connection. Okay. Okay. Our year at a glance, I think everyone has that document in front of you, or hopefully. We see the update on our pillars. Got some proposed delegations for the year ahead, some initiatives, obviously, and a lot of very important points we've discussed in the past. So plan for 2025, we've had a chance to review it. Just wanted to open up and see if there's any concerns with what's been presented here, any suggestions for additions, any modifications.
I think to Mayor Panko, it's fair to say that this is a living document. So this is just a culmination of everything that this group has kind of talked about since the beginning of 2005. I put this together just to keep my head in order because it also helps me when I'm doing the report. But so this is a working document. So anytime something comes into your brains about somebody who'd be really good delegation or an event you want to have or something that we can add to our pillars. And I got to find a different word for pillars since we're doing a more circular thing now. Let me know, because this is something that I think we just need to continually keep updating. And as things happen and we have the delegations or we have the event, we kind of cross it off. So it's a living document. So please reach out at any time and I'll add to it or take things off. And I'll have it updated for every meeting. And that way we can keep tabs on our accomplishments and things that are lingering.
Two suggestions. One, maybe it would be good to have a Pride committee, the Communist Pride Committee, come in May to talk about what they have planned for June. Second one, it's not yet, but I think we can probably have a discussion within the next couple of months about the Heart Hub. That's the satellite office of the Heart Hub that's coming to Smith Falls.
Which office?
Pardon?
Which office?
It's through Leonard Square of Mental Health and Addictions.
Okay.
It'd be good to maybe have some understanding of what this is going to bring to the community. And part of it's a model the provinces
What is that?
rolled out for
Oh, Heart.
addiction recovery,
We'll go provide Bridge House.
housing addiction recovery, rehabilitation, one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, Mayor, if you remember, we were also talking in our previous meetings that we would like to have a calendar that we can be more focused on what we want to do all year round. So if we could take some time, maybe not, in the coming meetings, to just have that opportunity to talk and decide of what events do we want to be involved with and in what capacity. So that we have the specific date for them, and then we can be more focused on doing those as well. You remember, like we were talking about having community meetings with people and speak about, like, address different issues that people are facing in the community. That was a very good initiative, but we didn't discuss this idea in like further detail. Newcomer event was supposed to change name to something else. I can't recall exactly what it was, but that was something that also we need to have some date for it, at least from now, to start planning for it. Things like that.
Yeah, that's on here or not?
I've listed it, I've just called it
Yeah.
open house because we did talk about changing it from just newcomer. So I just kind of at this point called it an open house.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I ask about the renovictions bylaw? Where are we with that?
We'll discuss it later in the meeting.
Oh, good. Okay.
How do you bring that up?
Councillor would like to say something.
Yes, Peter.
I know these are high level, just summary points. They're not all the verbiage, but on the last page, if we just on the second, importance promoting different forms of accessibility. We could just use language like people facing systemic barriers or people who are deaf living with mental illness, as opposed, it sounds like those are labels of, you know, let me try this again. A person living with mental illness, it's not you're not mentally, it's like you're a diabetic, you're a person living with diabetes.
Okay.
So
Just
I know it's the intent is to say that, but it's people, they aren't the mentally ill. Just the language, we could just tweak it a little. And I know these are summaries, so.
Yes. The other thing for an update, it may not, probably a good idea to have an update from the Accessibility Advisory Committee. At some point, we had a meeting earlier this week and sort of more of a brainstorming session. So I think there's a lot of things which are underway. Basically, we can plan for summer or fall. Provide some insight into what is happening from that perspective. Diana?
I recall at the last meeting, we were talking about a screening of Living Below the Line that's going to be at the Station Theatre in May. Is that something that the town or like this community can be promoting more as like an event related to this committee?
So it's already being, there's already a sponsor for that event. But I did send it, I sent it to all of you, so feel free to send it on. And I also sent it to our communications department and made sure that they're going to be sending it out and getting the word out for the event.
Okay.
I forget who's sponsoring it now.
Is that Basic Income Network?
Yes, that's right, Ellie, thank you.
I have it on my calendar.
Yeah, it's the 24th, isn't it?
I think it's May 8th.
Kitty knows.
Oh, sorry, I was somewhere else.
The date,
Of,
Living Below the Line?
yes, the 8th.
Okay.
May.
May.
And regarding the food insecurity, if you remember, like we were talking about the community gardens, I was wondering, that also was kind of, it remained at no specific point at what we would like to do with it. Because I am aware that there are people in the community that they would like to contribute towards that idea. And they were wondering how the town could support this so that they have the tools, they have the knowledge of how to grow plants. But mainly their issue is that they are facing lack of land that everybody can access, not somebody's property, so that everyone can be free to go and help out and be able to access the produce.
Mhm.
So that's something that I wanted to see if we can invite them to come and talk about their ideas, how they would like to manage it, what are the span of this activity, how they want to do it, and how the town can support, or Smith Falls for All can support it. If that's a good idea, I can connect with them and ask them to come in one of our meetings and talk about it.
Was that Petra?
It's so I'm kind of attending one of the community gatherings in Smith Falls.
Yeah.
It's very organic, like people did it on their own. They get together every Sunday over coffee and they speak the challenges, the struggles that they face. One of them has been the issue of the food insecurity, and they are really willing to do this. It was out of, I did not talk about us having this idea also, but they were saying that we would like to start this community garden. And somebody there who has all the tools, he was completely ready to just put all the energy and time on it, and everybody was volunteering. They're just facing the difficulty of having a good land that they can put this effort on
So
and start it.
So I think there's two possibilities here. One, guidance from Real, which has the community gardens at Real and a lot of expertise and probably more tools and stuff, I would assume too. But secondly, there has been in the past what's called the community garden at Heritage House Museum.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was used last year. It went for a number of years, and basically the garden is there.
Yes.
It simply needs to be worked up and used. So what we can find out if it has been used at all in recent years, or if anybody who has been involved in helping turn the soil and prepare the land and plant the seeds, Because if not, even if there is, this is probably an opportunity for this group. So there's the land right there. The garden has been used in the past.
Yes,
It has been, the soil's been, I think, was tested a number of years ago to make sure it's suitable.
yes,
So
That's
we can
good.
probably make some connections there.
of course.
And they can also, have they connected to the Smith Falls Horticultural Committee, group? Because I think they do some community gardens, and I know that they were looking for some volunteers to support with the Heritage House community gardens and stuff like that.
I'll take that information from you
So,
to
yeah,
pass
the
it to
Smith
them.
Falls Horticultural Society, is that what it's called? I can't
Yes,
remember. But yeah, so they're just kind of local committee, and I know they were looking for volunteers to
Wonderful.
help with.
For sure.
the
I will
gardens
send
and
that
stuff.
information to them.
Yeah, I can get you their contact info
We
too.
can probably get information on the Heritage House today or tomorrow. So
Sure.
maybe we can have it for this weekend if you're talking to someone. And
No problem.
obviously you want to start thinking about it and
I
preparing.
did look at that piece of garden, small garden, but nothing was, as far as I remember, there wasn't anything there that I noticed.
Okay.
It
yeah.
was last year, so I
It
don't
might be
think
a couple
that
years
they,
it's been
yeah.
used.
Mhm.
Okay, that'd be ideal.
So,
And there's water there too. Which is
yes,
important,
they are
right?
exactly.
Okay, Diana?
I shared this update with Carrie over email, but at the last meeting, I said that I would reach out to Miller Bay's Farm because they do the Bountiful Basket program in the summer. And they have on their website, if a basket is not picked up at the end of the week, it can go to a charitable partner. So I sent them an email and I had Janet on it, asking if they would be willing to extend that partnership, the partnership that they have with the Perth table with the Smith Falls Food Hub. And they said that they are. And so I sent the contact to Janet, so I'm not sure where that's gone, but they've also agreed that some of the leftover Bountiful baskets can go also to the hub. We'll just have to arrange a pickup, whether that's myself, Janet, or another volunteer. I'm sure we'll be able to find somebody. So that's 15 weeks from the end of June into October, where now there'll be some really nice local organic produce. It'll vary how much because it depends. It's whoever signed up for the program, if they're not able to pick it up that week, there's no carryover basically. So if you can't come on your designated day, which is either Tuesday or Thursday, then it goes to a charitable partner. So I told them I would reach out again as we get closer to when their farm is opening, which is mid to end of May. And we'll see. I don't know if there's an update at all from the
I passed it on to Ashley, who's the coordinator for the Food Hub, and she thinks it's amazing and is all for it. And what we can't use at the Food Hub, we can always just pass on to the food bank as fresh produce. So it definitely will get used, and they're going to reach out to them a little closer to the time to get on the
Right.
list. So,
Good work. Okay. Any further with our planning for 2025?
Also, I was wondering if we could invite the Canadian Royal Legion at some point to come and have a talk here.
Is that on?
It's on the list, but I didn't know what the topic was. So I
Okay.
just put a line.
Okay. So you're thinking,
Because November 11 is on their way, and I was thinking of that very honorable occasion and how we could also be of any assistance. I know that they are also having volunteers, but it would be good if you can be involved with that as well.
so we have an update maybe prior to, maybe come October or September about planning for Remembrance Day, and then also they're going to have the banners. And probably they do a lot of work obviously for veterans, but also for seniors in our community.
That's correct.
Maybe
Yeah,
an update on some of the resources that are available through the Legion for people in our community.
that would be great. We have.
I'm sorry, I've turned it down. It just keeps doing that. Just sit on it.
Entertaining, Katie.
Oh, cancel it.
Peter.
So the Lions Club just reposted their community good food basket and looking for people. It's a great deal. Bulk buying, they sort it. And people are aware of it. It's the good food basket. You buy it. It's open for everybody.
Mhm.
And it's just,
He donates to my husband.
Would it,
you buy it, sort it, you buy in bulk.
would it make sense to have them come and talk about it? If they have a-
Yeah, so I've delivered for them in the past. It's just, it's a wonderful program.
So I wonder if they may have certain capacity limits, but if they promote it and some donations towards it and more drivers show up to try and help it if we promote it, maybe it'll reach more people.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Promoting.
launched the delivery during COVID, kept it going for a while. There were people that wanted the basket but had no way of getting it. So there are volunteers that, I don't know if they're still doing it, but there are people that don't mind doing that.
Okay. So do you mind checking with them and if they're hoping to grow it and are looking for support in many ways, plus eventually more people want to buy them, then maybe we could have them come and talk about it.
Help them promote it a bit too, because I have seen a little bit, but not a lot. And maybe if we can get the word out as well.
Like other volunteer groups, like they've got so much capacity and they're a wonderful, they work really hard at it, but there's only a handful of them.
I've got a great group of volunteers that would probably not mind helping out once a month, so.
Super. Ellie?
I was just gonna say, so they're great. So we run in Carleton Place a fresh food box, and Smith Falls Lions helped us kind of start ours off. So we run the same kind of thing, and it's basically you pay once a month, and I think the Smith Falls Lions is $25, and then you take so this is what we do at least. Then you take all the money, and then you're able to buy in bulk. You get a sheet of what's the best prices, and you kind of go through and pick which the best bang for your buck. And then you get fresh produce. You don't get to pick which kind of produce, but normally you get your basics, so your potatoes, your carrots, your onions, like an apple and a leafy green, and then some extras, and then you just pick it up and away you go. And so you don't get to pick what's in it, but it's just kind of an easy way to get fresh, affordable produce. And so Smith Falls Lions does one, the table does one, we do one in Carleton Place, and Almont Civitan I think does one as well.
I think drivers would be the big thing because if you live across town, you don't want to carry a big, huge box of.
Yeah, that's our biggest
Produce.
issue is you have to pick up because we deliver to our kids, and so it's too much for us to deliver to community members and to our kids. So that's definitely an issue. But the point being, I guess, the more boxes that are purchased, the better bang for your buck. So in January, February, and March, we had funding to provide boxes to the youth that we work with. So we did about 35 boxes per month for the youth. And then on top of the community members. So you got so much more. Like in October, when we only had a couple youth boxes and a couple community members boxes, it was pretty much on par almost, or, you're getting maybe $10 off. Where January, February, and March, we were, if you bought that at Walmart, it was going to be $50. And you're getting it for $20. So it's quite a good, the more people that do it, the better it is for the program.
Excellent. Nicole?
I know transportation seems to be one of our biggest limiting factors. In that, Lanark Transportation has a partnership with the food bank where it's $2 to access in town. Could we look into extending that to the Lions Club or where these boxes are accessible to see just if we can limit that transportation barrier?
I mean, if they have capacity and they're willing to do it for a cost, Peter?
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. What the Lions trying to stay out of is deciding who should get the delivery and who should come and pick it up. They only have capacity to buy it, sort it. And the health center in Smith Falls was coordinating, if you needed transportation, they were helping. The Lions didn't, they tried to do that, but they can't do the social services of the community as well as. So if the health center is still coordinating that, then I like your idea. But without somebody to say, Mary really needs it.
Because I think for the food bank, it's up to the individual to call and access transportation, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But because it's at a more affordable rate of $2, it limits some of those barriers. Now, in a dream world, we wouldn't have to worry about cost or transportation and all that stuff. But I think that could just be that would be an aid to a transportation barrier that we're facing.
I know when I delivered, it was, many of the people were homebound. They weren't able, even if they had transportation. They were living in a wheelchair or up 3 flights of stairs with disabilities. This is not able. So having somebody bring it to the door was it was so wonderful for everybody. But I don't know. I'll find out if the health center is still supporting it, and I'll check with the Lions to see what their needs are.
I remember the food bank said that they didn't deliver because of the once it leaves them, that it, you know, the food is,
Legit, yeah.
that was their issue for their delivery, so I don't know how that works with delivery, right? But, I mean, it's potatoes.
Yeah.
But still, it's what happens to the food between when it leaves the Lions Club that is responsible for it until it arrives at the house. Where does that fall?
I imagine, like, with
Not to put
this,
a damper on things. but-
I believe that with Lanark Transportation and the food bank, they pick up a person from their residence, bring them to the
Bring
food
them
bank.
to the food.
The food bank
Okay.
will access the ID and then they bring them back home.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, because if the person is picking it up, what happens with it? It's theirs anyways. But like if I was to deliver 10 of them, you know, it's in my hands and my responsibility. So.
Yeah, and I've gone to the doors and there's nobody home.
Yeah.
But not very often. It's not a big problem, and I'll find out and come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments on planning for 2025? A lot of stuff happening. Always will be with this group. Okay, interim report, Carrie.
So I think I finalized the 2024-25 to date interim report. It's attached to the package that was sent out. It's included, I included everything up until I think our last meeting. I've changed the one thing we talked about was amending the 4 pillars to be a more circular thing, and I'll have like I'll have our communications person actually do something like legit. That was just something like text boxes and something I did just to get this in front of everybody today. So there's 3 action items that we're requesting for council. One's already been done, and that was the budget for 2025, which we budgeted $5,000. The second was for council to formally change the name to Smith Falls Equity for All. And the third was, to amend the terms of reference to denote the 4 pillars or priorities that this group has, and remove, because we had what was the one, Mayor Pankos, the state, that we used the Ontario.
The Canadian Alliance of, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, the organization that we initially worked with. Yeah.
So we've kind of just, I mean, the terms of reference have kind of evolved as the groups evolved, which I think is wonderful. And we've kind of created our own group and our own terms of reference and created our own rules. So looking to just amend the terms of reference away from Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, and because we've kind of created our own. So that's the takeaway for council, that we need council to authorize. So this just kind of sums up what we've done to date. I'm planning on bringing this forward April 24th because I committed to the first quarter of 2025. So if anybody has any suggestions or any additions they want to put in, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be presenting it April 28th.
Okay. Lots. Well done, Carrie. It's very inclusive.
Carrie,
Yes.
in this, is this going to be proposed to council soon? Because when I'm looking at the allyship pamphlet, I've kind of teetered with both names, the Smith Falls for All and the Smith Falls Equity for All. In terms of that branding or that name, what should I go with?
So that won't, I'm going to bring this forward April 28th. So if council adopts it, then it'll be formally adopted at the next meeting, which would be the first meeting in May.
Okay.
So depending on so if we're bringing this forward at our next meeting, then it should be the Equity for All.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm just doing the dates in my head. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I honestly, and Mayor Panko, you can obviously tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think council will have any issue with the name change. No.
I hate it.
Good for Peter.
Peter, recorded vote.
So a lot of work over the last several years, even before this committee was in the current rendition of it, and a lot of outcomes. Very positive. Any further thoughts?
I see online a lot that people still are looking for sort of the one-stop shopping for information. Where do they go to get everything, rather than the health unit for mental health issues and maybe the food hub for food. Where can I go and get all of it at once type thing? I mean, do we put that in the welcome center? Do we? I don't know.
Maybe a rule for the Falls Food Hub for that as a community resource and.
We have our community board and we try to keep that updated as much as possible. And it'll be up permanently. We take it down every Monday.
Yeah. Once
we
we're
have our
permanent-
space, then
yeah.
we'll be able to have that to add to. So maybe that'll be.
Yeah, I think it's a great first point of contact to connect people with a variety of resources they may need in the community. Right? It's going to be the place where a lot of people will probably focus on and look for help.
Because we do.
That's a hope.
We print numbers out for those that don't have, that can't go online and stuff like that. So we do have a lot. It's just they can only access it on Mondays between right now.
Progress comes in small steps.
I have a question in line with the what changes have been done in the community in terms of like having the pink bench and then the rainbow
Crosswalk?
yes, crosswalks. And I did again read this somewhere. People were wondering if the town can also have a crosswalk with, and that I found it very nice idea. I have not seen any other town or city if you could have a crosswalk with puppy flowers painted on.
That came up last fall. I remember, I think it was going to be a back of discussion with the Legion.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think
it was discussed. And I think the plan was.
I've sent a bunch of samples to the president of what, and they said that they were gonna look into it, and that's all I've heard from there.
when we have them hopefully
There is
here
some
to have
towns that
a
already
speak with
has.
them, maybe we can ask them what is their idea about that, and then we will follow up with that.
Because I sent pictures of some really amazing ones that
Really?
look like, yeah.
Other towns?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
I have
so-
never seen myself. That would be great. If
yeah,
you
I've
had one.
did some research and then sent it to them and thought, why not?
So what was the feedback? That
They'll look into it.
yeah, so I had a discussion with them. It was actually on Remembrance Day. Yeah. So I haven't heard anything since then. So
So maybe if we do have them here for a delegation, yeah, we can follow up on
yeah.
that.
So then hopefully we can have one of those crosswalks before coming Remembrance Day. That would be beautiful.
I think we should change them all. Have a Ukraine one.
Seriously, it would be beautiful. It makes Smith Falls
I just wanted to watch Peter's head.
We do also have the options on the light posts too. For the life of me, I can't remember what they're called, but I believe they're like
Banners.
Yeah, we do the banners of the veterans that
Yeah.
go up every year.
More of them and more this year. I think this
More
year
this
is
year.
to grow, right?
I know.
Peter?
No, you were finished.
I was just going to say, in terms of, I know we have them for Remembrance Day, but those can also be utilized for other events going on in the town as well. So for Pride or, Pink Shirt Day, things like that. I know it gets a little costly, but we can utilize those too, opposed to crosswalks.
For the banners, the DBA, the Downtown Business Association, does have various banners that go up at different times of the year. Yeah. So I think if there was, and there's always a cost to put them up and take them down. So it'd be probably anything would have to probably be in collaboration with them.
Perfect.
Peter?
Just that there is the town has adopted a public art policy. And we did it for a lot of reasons. All of these are great ideas and I love them. There are groups that would like to have crosswalks that aren't as inclusive. And they're saying, why not me? So it's just, so the public art policy that town adopted just gives some guidelines and some rules around it. Because once you open it up, all of these I don't have any issues with. But the rainbow crosswalk, which I love, prompted other groups, and I've heard from some of them saying, why can't I have a big something or other that isn't as welcoming and as I might think. So there is some parameters if you want to look at it, it's on our website, is that the right word for it, Carrie? Public art and
Yeah.
display
Policy, yeah.
policy, it's around just, because if it's a free-for-all, then you're gonna get everything. I don't want to there are some voices that don't need to be
I get it,
amplified.
yeah. No need to explain.
All right,
Mitra?
Very valid points, Councillor. I would look at those datas. However, I think I'm talking specifically about Remembrance Day. That is something that goes over the borders. This is like something that the world recognizes, the contribution of the veterans for the peace of the world, around the world, for all the nations. So I think that's something that can be
100% agree.
exempted from that diversity that could be in that.
great.
Okay.
And
Yes, Nicole?
I was going to say, thinking out loud here, there is an initiative done in the city of Toronto in terms of looking at graffiti. So what they implemented is they found that within the graffiti artist world, there was a culture where no one would tag or graffiti over already pre-existing graffiti. So they would actually provide public spaces for artists to graffiti, and it established these beautiful art pieces and this art culture in the city. But kind of connecting that to Smith Falls, they also did not just have walls accessible, but it was fire hydrants, it was garbage cans, it was specific benches. And so when we look at tying diversity into the town, not necessarily using the word graffiti where we have issues with, people graffitiing, but if we want to utilize other public spaces to showcase art, those can be really awesome spaces, right? Fire hydrants, everyone has them, right? Garbage cans, especially near the parks in the summertime. Just utilizing other little spaces that add a touch more of, okay, this is a community here that supports me, supports art, and just feel good.
Just to finish, the policy invites that.
Yeah.
It's not meant to restrict, it's meant to encourage public art. So that's the tone of it, and Kingston does that as well. We
Awesome.
adopted it from them.
Perfect.
So it's about how do we promote public art, but there are some.
Art we don't want
We,
the public.
we,
Yeah.
we recently formed a public arts advisory committee. And I don't know if, Carrie, if we're still recruiting members for that or not.
We have one appointment coming forward on Monday, but I think there still is one or two vacancies.
So if anybody has an interest in add another committee to your public involvement, that would be one. I guess anybody who was here in the 70s, which is I guess Peter and I and Carrie, you've been pretty young. I don't know, was it Old Home Week when the fire hydrants were all painted in town? They're all painted as animals, and it was pretty cute. It was a real hit for a number of years. But it would be something that would be a huge undertaking. Yeah. So I think these are ideas that should go through obviously the Public Arts Committee, Advisory Committee, and then see where it goes from there. Okay. Any further thoughts on the interim report?
Thank you, Carrie. This is very comprehensive.
Thank you, Mitra. I'm not a artsy person. So
Actually, I was thinking of we can also benefit some of this in our pamphlet as well.
Oh, good. Good.
A lot of highlights. Well done. So we look forward to this coming to Committee of the Whole and continue on with our work here.
I have you presenting that to Mayor Panko.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I might just say, push her back at you. Okay, Linda, database of landlords with available units.
Yes, after this last fire over on Lanark Street, it's apparently, I didn't know the people that were involved, but everybody, when it comes to a fire or homeless, has a hard time to try to find apartment, so they're leaving it up to their friends. If you see an apartment, let me know. If you see a sign, let me know. There's nowhere to go to find what you need as in a list. Now, on our
Priority.
thank you. At the bottom, it says for rental assistance and stuff. Would it not be part of that? All you need is just have to be okayed well, it would have to be, see if it would be legal. And then it would be okayed by the town. If you just had a list compiled of all the landlords, just their name and their phone numbers, of all the rental units like duplexes, apartments, houses, whatever, available. So when a major fire comes or somebody homeless, you hand them the list. Now it's up to them to use the list, as to you'll have to call people. But we have helped them at our end say, this is a list of landlords. If you want to call them, then they may have something available for you. And that would be happen right away instead of a month later. They're still trying to find somewhere or looking for money to stay in a hotel or a motel longer. It's really, it happens all the time. Every time there's a fire, usually a large amount of people, it's hard to try to find somewhere, right? Like where to start. Nobody knows really where to start doing it. So I just thought it would be easier if you just, like, the list is there and.
Well, thanks, Linda. And it's a very relevant point. 2016, many of you may remember, there was a major fire on Robinson Avenue and the row houses were all burnt. Everybody lost everything. And there's probably going back 15, 17 people who were living in there, all traumatized. And we actually the town worked with a lot to try to help them find a new place. Because part of it was just that not knowing where to turn, just having lost everything, going through the trauma of losing everything. And back then we did have a list of a large number of landlords in town, and we were able to make some connections. And the difference today, of course, is that there is a much more limited supply, especially anything that's even remotely affordable. So Carrie did circulate the list that Lanark County now has on their website. And that's something we can probably provide. If it's not already on the town's website, we can probably put on there as a link. These are all voluntary. These are all listings that Lanark County housing staff have continued to resource and continue to post. So it does show, right now it must be a dozen or more, but these are across Lanark County. So it may not be appropriate for everybody. But I think to your point, if it was, maybe the action item we could look at is simply an open call to any landlords who would like to be on a registry. So the town does have on our website, there is a resource. I'm not sure how current, how updated it is regarding available rental units.
So if there's one on the website, I can print that out for our community board at the food hub.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's.
Some people just are not online savvy, and
Yeah, they normally have printouts out in like the OW office and in the ODSP office, and they've got a printout at the on-track office, I'm pretty sure as well.
It's under help.
For folks who can't like access
So
it
it is-
online.
it
But
is
yeah,
under-
you guys would be a great place to
yeah,
have
put
one
it
as
up
well.
on our board and it just update it every few months.
Yes, one.
Yeah, I think Lanark County normally sends it out like regularly.
every week.
Yeah.
And if you look on the town's website, there's a page here on housing. So search for a house or apartment for rent in Smith Falls. And it does show what's available right now. Now, there's only 2 listings right now of units that are available. So it's sort of that voluntary, a landlord can put it up there. So maybe it's a matter of trying to promote that and this so that landlords know they have available units. I regularly keep in touch with a few landlords in town because people sometimes reach out to me if I know of anything. And I would say in the last 2 years, I've probably been able to have only one person who was able to connect to a landlord who had a unit available at that time. Generally, I've got nothing, right? Unfortunately, and that's just the reality of where we're at. Nothing affordable. So I think we can promote that section of the town's website and the Lanark County page to get more people aware of what's out there.
Yeah.
Peter?
Just to reinforce what you're saying, Mayor Penko, the county gets provincial funding, the county funding to do this job. They keep an updated list every week. They promote it, they print it, so it already exists, and that is their job. So for us to recreate it, I think we can amplify that. And most people in social services know about it and amplify that good work that they do. So it's not everything is at the municipal level, but we can certainly promote. I don't want to recreate something that already exists, but let's make sure that more people know about it, Linda, for sure. But it is there, and and if anybody knows of somebody who's in a housing crisis, call the county. They'll do their best. They aren't the only solution, but they're paid to do it, and that's their job. So,
Nicole?
On this topic, and sorry, Carrie, to go back to planning for 2025, I believe this committee discussed the idea of a know your rights for tenants event or conversation. So maybe we could put that on our proposed initiatives for the housing pillars, that just like a know your rights or understanding what it means to be a tenant.
Not under delegations.
Yeah, I think it's already.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was looking at proposed events. Sorry.
I think, I guess, Carrie, I don't see the link to the counties.
On our page?
Rental listing on our page?
I don't think there is one.
Okay, maybe we can add that too, or haven't had it yet. Okay. Ellie?
But adding on to what everybody has said, it would be interesting though to get a delegation from Lanark County Housing, or sorry, not Lanark County Housing, Lanark County Social Services, to talk about like their RGI units. And I know they're always looking for landlords who want to perhaps become an RGI landlord, and what that looks like. And, you know, maybe you could build it in with a know your rights as a tenant, but also know your rights as a landlord and what you can and can't do, and the benefits of partnering with Lanark County Social Services for RGI units, because I know they're looking. So that could be, I think it's good to get both sides of the picture, right? The landlords and the tenants. So
Sure.
So thanks, Linda, for bringing that forward. We'll make sure we enhance what we have already to include anything possible.
All right, thank you.
Okay, renovation bylaws. Katie, funny you asked that today. Okay, we have a little PowerPoint here. And so I reached out to Linda Tranter, who is from Legal Aid in Perth, the legal clinic. And so she responded and sent the link for this. And she said, from a renovation standpoint, a lot of the cases she's dealing with is Smith Falls. So there's been a rise in recent years of landlords who have used this method to try to move tenants out. Sometimes it's legitimate. They want to make improvements. There's still a process they need to follow, and they still need to accommodate the needs of the tenant. But there is obviously numerous ones where you've got a landlord who's trying to find this as a tactic to move people out, especially people who've been there for a long period of time, who are paying low rent with the intention of fixing it up a little bit, maybe or maybe not, but certainly getting someone else, so they can put someone else in paying a lot more rent. And it's horrific, and it's very damaging to anybody who's been through this. I've probably been involved in dozens of units that have been subject or challenged through this process in recent years. And so some municipalities have made the step of having a renoviction bylaw, which would require a landlord to go through a more onerous process in order to actually seek the eviction based on renovation purposes. Today, they say if they don't, in Linda's case, she will challenge them. She'll make sure that there is a building permit been approved and make sure that the due process is followed. But in cases where that has not been done, then obviously, usually I guess the decision is the person's able to stay because it was not a justified eviction. So Carrie, if you want to just run through some of the slides here as we talk. So say Hamilton was a leader with this. They were the first to do it. And without getting all the details, as you see, it took a number of years. There's a number of municipalities which have, okay, I'll let you continue with it. This is mostly Hamilton, I guess it's a slideshow, yeah.
Can we go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And generally these things take a champion, right? And this was a grassroots initiative that led to involvement, led it to council, led it to some research, and led it to a decision. And we know this issue is not simply in Hamilton, it's not simply in London, it's not simply in Toronto or Smith Falls, it is across the province.
That's very small. Can you read that?
Yeah.
for me?
So the process, so a landlord wants to evict someone to do renovations, if to complete an N13, they have to send it to the tenant. In many cases, the tenant views this as an eviction, especially if they don't know their rights, or the landlord positions it as an eviction to get somebody out, so that they're avoiding any delays, any tribunal hearings. And then of course, anybody who's been in a place for a long period of time paying a reasonable rent, as we know from the listings and the challenges people face, they're probably looking at double the rent if they have to find another place, if they can find another place, right? And then of course, if you're now paying that much more in rent, either your shared space with people is not adequate, or your food insecurity rises because now you have no income left over after paying for your housing, and it's an all too frequent issue. So the purpose of the bylaws indicates here, disincentivize landlords from pursuing vacant possession unnecessarily. They have to make sure, and under the law, if they do have to go through the process, they have to let the tenant back in when the renovations are complete at essentially the same rent. And so I don't think there's a landlord around who's going to spend a huge amount of money in renovating a unit to let someone back in at the same rent. Encourage landlords to have tenants reoccupy renovated units, of course. Encourage tenants to reoccupy renovated units. Must prevent tenants from being evicted into homelessness, the biggest concern, obviously. Municipality with advance, so the must provide, say, the municipality advance notice and info to intervene effectively and connect tenants with supports. Must provide tenants with adequate evidence of bad faith eviction to win at the LTB. Must disincentivize landlords from circumventing the bylaw, not getting a license. Again, this is a process to create a license for and compelling them to follow the due process. Flag to LTB adjudicators that necessary approvals may not have been received, invite more scrutiny. That's what Linda does. She does that research. Provide adequate data for tracking it, evaluation, enforcement. Must ensure tenants receive adequate notice and tenants' rights information and access to support resources. And must prevent renovations, repairs from making housing unavailable for other tenants. So, continue on. So it was passed last year, and I don't know if I haven't seen a follow-up on it to see how it's going. Other municipalities continue on here. I'm not sure if it's slideshow. I was found the slideshow last night, but I was at a county council meeting looking through things. So the features, it applies. Pardon?
Magnify it a little bit.
I'm not sure how much bigger I can. Let me try.
So it will apply across all units across the municipality. And the landlord operator is required to file an application with the town, in our case, for a renovation license within 7 days of issuing N13. And of course, the application for a renovation license must include supporting documentation, including a building permit, a report from a qualified person, such as an engineer that states that the vacant possession is required, and a copy of the N13 notice. The N13 notice is issued to tenants as exercise their legal right of first refusal. The landlord must provide either a temporary alternative accommodation or compensation to the tenant for the duration of the renovation. And a temporary alternative accommodation offered to the tenant must be comparable to the tenant's current unit during the period of repair. Compensation is determined to be an amount equal to the difference between the rental rate currently paid by the tenant for the unit being repaired and the average market rent of rental housing unit with the same number of bedrooms as the tenant's current unit. The landlord operator shall provide particulars to the municipality of the arrangement that has been made prior to receiving a renovation license. And the landlord operator and tenant cannot make such an arrangement, and the director may make an exemption to the provision and may impose conditions on such exemption. And landlord operator may be subject to enforcement for failing to comply with provisions of the bylaw. Allie?
Are these, sorry, I'm a little bit confused. Are we, like, these are all Ontario laws within the Residential Act. So are we talking about these to say, you know, from a municipal level, okay, now we want to create this bylaw to enforce it, i.e. if there's non-compliance, you will be fined? Or what are we
So,
wishing to do here?
so there's provincial regulations, obviously, which govern this process. But I guess there would be, if it doesn't reach the LTV, then the tenant doesn't have their opportunity, their day in court. And there's a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of landlords will issue the N13 to a tenant and say you've got 30 days to get out of whatever it may be. And that's the end of it, right? Once it moves out.
Yeah, so is it, like, I guess what I'm
Well, this-
saying is, like, these laws are already in place.
It just takes it one step further.
Okay,
Makes it
and
this-
do
this
more
one-
awareness around it?
So
I guess.
awareness would help, but a municipal bylaw, which would state they've got to go through a building department.
Yeah.
They need to apply for a license to do the renovations. They need to get a building permit.
But I mean, don't they already need to do that? They just may not.
Yeah, right.
But like legally, they're supposed to be. Okay.
So
Okay.
where's the enforcement?
So that's what I'm asking, I guess. Are we looking at saying if you don't comply now, you'll have a fine? Okay, following.
So it makes it more onerous and more difficult for the landlords, and they're more accountable. So right now, as an example, if someone is doing, I mean, the threat is we need to do major renovations, you need to move out, and the tenant doesn't know that they have to stay, they can stay, or the landlord has to accommodate them and compensate them, right? So that's part of it is the education part, but the landlord's going to have to go through a much more onerous process in order to be able to do the renovations. And I've had situations where the landlord says, well, the unit isn't safe to live in. Well, okay, provide the engineering report that proves it's not safe. Then you have to move the person out. You need to make sure they're housed. You need to compensate them, do the work, and then they're allowed back in, right? And that doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't happen. It's supposed to happen, but it doesn't. So I'm wondering how this bylaw is going to, how are we going to further ensure that this doesn't happen? Because really, I can turn around and give Katie an N13 right now. And I mean, I can do my renos at my house and nobody can still know, right?
Well,
I can know there's a fine out there for me, but at the end of the day, $2,500, like me, if I get Katie out and I can renovate it and I can up it $600, I don't really care about the $2,500.
So there's always going to be that risk.
Yeah.
But at least there's, when there's a building permit issued, there's also an inspection before occupancy is granted again. So our chief building official will have that authority and would know if the person is complying with the bylaw when they go through that process. But if someone does it without a permit and doesn't follow the due process, it's hard. Right?
Yeah.
You can't. But hopefully if more tenants understand their rights.
Yeah.
And the motivation here is we've seen such incredible demand for housing in recent years. A lot of our community people in our community who've lived in the rental unit for a long time are paying a reasonable level of rent that gives them the opportunity to have money to buy food and a little bit of security. That's all at risk the moment they have to move, as we know.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before here, one example, there was an out-of-town landlord, June 29th last year, bought 20 units over, I think, 4 or 5 different properties. And on July 1st, had told each one of the tenants your rent's at $500 a month, or you're out. And some, and with that, you're signing a lease indicating you'll pay your $500 more a month. Some did, because they were fearful of being evicted. And so they agreed to pay the $500 more a month. Many others fortunately started to rally, and Linda and I hosted a meeting with them. But it took a long time through that meeting before they really came to understand that they have the rights and that they hold the cards and that the landlord doesn't. And so with Linda's help, we pushed back on the landlord and everyone was able to stay. But he's tried again.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried again earlier this year. And again, so some things have come to the LTB and fortunately people were able to stay. But it's a strategy that landlords property is an asset, it's an investment asset. And in some cases, and this is one example where the process they follow is buy, evict, renovate, refinance, and repeat. And in this instance, when it comes to refinancing, what's key for the landlord is the amount of rent and the leases. So in this situation, I believe the motivation was he had not financed the whole purchase, and he had to go back and finance it. He needed leases showing enough rent to justify the price. And it's immoral to kick people out of their homes, but it happens all the time. So I think the opportunity that we have here is that we can try to provide a higher degree of protection for our citizens who or otherwise might be vulnerable, right? Carrie?
Mayor Panko, just to augment what you're saying, I think if a municipality was to pass this bylaw, it also gives tenants, the municipality is more accessible to tenants than the landlord-tenant tribunal. And with this one gives, so if a tenant was to receive an N13, then they have to file, I think in this bylaw, it's 7 days, they have to file for a building permit. So it's much easier for a tenant to call the chief building official and say, has this building permit been filed yet? And that makes us aware then that there's probably could be potentially building without a permit. So it makes us aware that something's going on. So I think one of the main features of having a bylaw like this is that the municipality is more accessible to a tenant than calling the landlord-tenant tribunal and being put, a 1-800 number compared to, just coming up to the town hall.
Well, and for the LTB, all the hearings are virtual too. So if you don't show up for your hearing, you're out, right? You're gonna lose. And
So
for people who
there'd
don't
be a
have,
degree of education, I guess, for tenants as well to say, if you receive an what is it, an N13, within 7 days, and staff are accessible here for them to call and say, has this been issued?
Yeah.
Has this been applied for?
Would holding a meeting or whatever, just an information session on that alone?
yeah, we did that 3 years ago, but it was all virtual, right?
Is that the one we had with Linda Tranter?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Virtual might be fine as
Yeah.
well, but if you're not computer, maybe.
Well, it was during the pandemic, the later stages of the pandemic.
Yeah, and that's part of on the listing there is to have Linda try to come, and it's just to find time in her schedule to come and do another one of those clinics because it was really well received.
I think we probably need something like that every year, a yearly thing, just because the laws change and new people are renting as opposed to buying. And
Katie, then Nicole.
I have just been through this and was kicked out of my apartment after 15 years. Out of 8 people, I was the only one that knew my rights. And 3 of the people left when they didn't have to. And this was so upsetting, I can't tell you. So people just have no clue. And they don't even pick up a phone, and say, what are my rights or whatever. I mean, it was terrible.
How would your place ever need renovations?
It wasn't renovations.
Oh, it was.
Well, maybe I shouldn't.
Okay, anyway.
But anyway, it was to move someone in. But they tried to raise the rent $700 a month. And then 9 days later, when I informed everybody what they should be doing, we were asked to move out to put a child in. And we said no, and we waited, we put up with it for 7 months. But the atmosphere is so bad, and he lived right next door to us. So, and we had to walk by his sunroom every day, but we finally left. But we gave it to them, and they now have to live in that apartment without rent, without raising. So now there's 2 apartments with no rent. So I don't know what the raising the rent $700 a month was all about. But anyway.
Nicole?
For that meeting that took place virtually during COVID, was it recorded? Could we list that recording on our website or somewhere accessible?
I did send it around, and I think it's on our website, but you may not have been on the committee when I sent it around. But I did send a link, and it's on our Facebook page as well. But because it was so long ago, you really have to scroll back. I'm happy to recirculate it though, because it really is. It was a really good session. We did have one gentleman who was really engaged, Don.
I think so. Yeah.
Don,
and
if that was his name, he was. Wow. But it was a great session. But I'll happily recirculate that to everybody. And I don't know if I can bump it up to the top of our page again, or.
It's reposted.
Because I know that.
And sorry, and for the gentleman, Don, I think that was saying, anyway,
That was
he
his
was, there was again, same thing. There was a landlord who came in, bought 2 5-plexes. And he was in one of them. And the landlord immediately issued N13s for all 10 units. 5 in one building probably needed a lot of work, but the other 5 had been renovated about 2 years earlier, completely. Right, so Don was very happy to be part of that process, and
Yep.
he was going to put his foot down.
It was an excellent presentation.
I think you can make the presentation a featured event and it'll stay at the top.
I'll get in trouble for that.
Nicole, you-
I think I just
I
shared.
was just going to say, I know as we're coming up with new initiatives or initiatives that we want to recirculate, I know timing can be really difficult to host in-person events, but if we've done events in the past, just recirculating them on a every so often kind of gets the word out.
we can all share it.
Yeah.
Okay. Diana?
And then like one thing I'm hearing here is all of us like recognizing that the community and folks who are currently renting do not know their rights. I read the Smiths Falls Journal that comes in every week so I can stay up to date on my municipality, and I'm just thinking, I've read articles where it's like Mayor Pinkow and you're talking about something. I'm wondering if we can have an article in the newspaper that is know your rights, right? Like if I'm thinking about if they're scrolling on Facebook and what we're saying, like some folks are not tech savvy or they don't know to pick up the phone, but they do read the newspaper.
Mhm.
And so having a paper copy that's available, then that way we can hopefully reach as many people as possible. Because that way the information comes to them rather than them having to go seek it out in a moment where they're already like experiencing heightened emotions and afraid. You don't think, oh, well, maybe I'll just look into if there's rights. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my house. What am I going to do? I need to call my family. I need to go stay somewhere else.
Well, this meeting is, as all is recorded,
Perfect.
and maybe we can simply send the link for this to the River Journal, and because they may want to just go ahead and do a story based on discussion today would be a good starting point. So
There is one way that landlords can work around all that, is what happened to my husband and I. They're moving their children in,
Yeah, well, that's what.
having family. The duplex both sides, one daughter did move into one side. The other one, nobody moved into my side. They did a little bit, and then they raised rent to $2,100. And yeah, so I gave us 1 month, like you don't have to pay this month, so that's like they give us 3 months notice and then an extra month. But it was in January. So there isn't anything you can do about it when they say that. And they had to leave it empty for a year. And that's what they did to get us out. Yeah.
that's where Linda has helped in those situations too. She will do the research. So if someone says, well, I'm going to move in, a landlord's, I'm going to move in, or my family member's going to move in, she'll find out where they live now. If she finds out they're living in a nice home in downtown Ottawa, she will bring that up at the LTB hearing and say, so you're telling me you're selling your house in Ottawa and you're moving into this apartment here on Lombard Street in Smiths Falls as an example, and tends to say, well, right? So she can help in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, there isn't anything you can do about it.
There is, because me and my mother have owned property, and we actually tried to get it so that I could move it, and I was unable to move into the property. So you can, you have to follow due process, because I was never able to move into my mother's apartment, and because we couldn't get them out, which was fine, that was a thing. But I had just graduated from school, so I was clearly had nowhere to live. I moved in with my mother instead. But there are ways around it, and you can have your rights protected. And Linda did a great job for the other party in this instance. But it happens, right? There is a due process to follow.
Yeah, and what I mentioned, the reason I mentioned that on Lombard is that was exactly what happened. Person bought a building there, and when Linda went and found out, well, you're going to move from your big house here into this 1-bedroom, 7-floor apartment. Yeah, come on now.
Yeah.
But they will try for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there are any more slides here we need to go through, but I guess the gist of what the conversation today is where do we go from here? And there's a number of municipalities now that if you go to, here you can circulate the Acorn website that I sent you last night, that does have a link to a lot of different resources for this. But maybe we start the discussion today. We have a chance to look at it and we can bring it back next meeting for further discussion. Because it's Ottawa is considering this. Ottawa's staff has recommended against it because of the potential volume of work involved. So I think we need to understand it more deeply before we would ever make a recommendation to council or committee of the whole, because we'd have to have some understanding from staff. Do we have current staff capacity to help deal with this? Or will there be a cost to the municipality to hire more people? And it's with like Hamilton indicated, numerous people they had to hire in order to work through this process. And so it's as much as it is, I think, necessary, we have to balance that with the cost implications and how we would resource it.
My question is that is it some sort of literature that can be shared publicly so that people at least can read and be more of not get some knowledge about what are the twists and turns around just leaving their house as soon as they are asked to, so that they know what they can do, what are the options out there for them that they can reach out to and ask for help or inform about the situation.
So we can certainly promote the legal clinic and maybe this section of the work that they do. And then Carrie's going to distribute the video of the meeting we held before with Linda Tranter to basically tenants rights meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further comments on this?
That's wonderful to know these.
Okay. Correspondence items. Carrie's plan. We'll bring that back next meeting.
Yeah, Julia sent this to me yesterday, our manager of economic development, and so I haven't really had a chance to look at it. But I was going to go back because there was a poster attached to it as well about possibly sponsoring it or inviting them to Smiths Falls or having Smiths Falls a part of it. So I haven't had a chance to look into it. So I guess they're workshops that are taking place within the summer into the fall. So I was going to just take a little bit of a deeper dive with some more information so we actually have something tangible we can look at.
Okay. We know on camera, obviously, next meeting date, May 8th. And we have some items for future meetings. What do you have? Do you have anything on the agenda now for May 8th?
There was a couple bring forwards from today, the allyship pamphlet. Hopefully we have an update on the Ukraine twinning initiative.
You and I, maybe Peter can work on the renovation piece.
Yep.
And bring back.
Yeah, I made a note to maybe go back and do some research about municipalities that have adopted it, maybe a pros and cons listing.
Some feedback from them as well.
Yeah. So I've made a point to do that, so I'll bring that forward as well as the correspondence item.
Okay. Any further thoughts before we wrap up? I need a motion for, Peter?
Just for future agenda item, I wonder if you are interested in hearing from the Old Home Week Committee. It's a there's a huge event this summer, August 2nd to the 9th, for all residents and all communities. It's a very inclusive, free event that'll last. 7 events that are put on by Old Home Week are all free. It's very Indigenous focused. Lots of things for children, for people of all ages, all walks of life. So so I just wonder, it fits with our theme of inclusivity and building community. And if you're interested, we could invite the co-chairs to come and just give you a high-level overview of the opportunities, and maybe there's something that this committee would like to get involved with as part of that.
That would be great.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And what about this Rainbow Registry delegation? What is it about it? I remember we talked about at some point if you wanted to be a member of them. Is that about that topic?
Yes. Rainbow Registry.
Oh, yes, so there is a cost to that, and I've reached out and we've had 2 conversations to date. I'm still waiting for him to send me the actual literature and the pricing list, but he has also indicated that he'd be happy. He's not in Ontario. I think he's on the East Coast somewhere, but he has indicated he'd be happy to do a delegation as well at an upcoming meeting.
Okay. Okay. Motion for adjournment. By Diana, second by somebody, Janet. Okay. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Great meeting. As always.